Yeah,
I would
yeah.
be able to write about the how it directly impacted the war,
Mm-hmm.
meaning like the effect of it causing unrest, between Serbia and Austria, how they now saw Serbia as a threat, etc.,
Mm-hmm.
etc. But as it relates to the war itself and what takes place within the war, no.
You're not going to, I don't think you need to know what is the different stuff that is going on there. The conflict we need, well, the conflict is, and this is the conflict that, let I bring up my PowerPoint. Ladies, you know that this year should have just run through First World War because they did it in great detail in grade 9.
Sir, but look
Sir,
how long that 13th grade we in, me no remember nothing
exactly.
about that.
Great detail. All right, I'm going to bring it up now and explain. One of the things is that what you need to know is that the entire region, the Balkan region, as they know that they have different ethnicity, different religious groups, all of these different stuff and different territories are there. And the issue is really Serbia and Austria-Hungary. Serbia believe that Bosnia and Herzegovina supposed to be part of their country. So in other words, they are fighting for land. Austria-Hungary, the empire, and Serbia fighting for land, right? So the issue is that those two provinces, if we want to use the word, provinces, those two provinces, most of the people that live within that area, those provinces, are actually people who are from the Serbs, right? They are mostly Serbians that live there. And as a result of that, Serbia strongly believe that they should have control over that area, not Austria-Hungary. But Austria-Hungary would have made a deal with Russia to say that, listen, Russia would say, allow us to go through from the Black Sea to the Middle Passage, not the Black Sea to the Black Sea to the Mediterranean Sea. If you allow us to go through that route, then I would support you annexing the two provinces, Bosnia and Herzegovina, as part of your kingdom, as part of your empire, right? We know, based on what is going on, ladies, that they would have gone ahead. I'll show you. You're seeing my PowerPoint?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right, so look at this now, ladies. All of this area would have been part of Austria-Hungary's empire, all of this landmass. Serbia believed that their geographic border should extend to here because most of the people living in these territories or provinces are actually people from Serbia. So they believe that all of this area should be part of their country. Austria-Hungary had a political control over this area, so they annex it. Annex means they put it to be part of their country, right? Or their empire. So Austria-Hungary annexed this area, which is an area that they were it's conflict, a lot of conflict going on over here. So conflict going on here. The Austria-Hungary wants this part to be part of their kingdom. Serbia wanted this part to be part of their kingdom. So they are fighting over this area. Now, Austria-Hungary went ahead after they made a deal with Russia and took over this territory. So if we want to use the word colonize, then colonize this area and say all of this area belongs to our empire now. Serbia did not agree with the decision. Serbia was upset because they said that most of the people living in this group were people from actually Serbia. No. So that is the first part of it. That is the conflict. The conflict is over two main geographic space, Herzegovina and Bosnia. So that is the first thing I need to tell the examiner. Then the next thing is that Serbia is going to once Austria-Hungary took control over this area, Serbia said, listen, I am fearful of Austria-Hungary, very, very fearful. Very, very fearful of Austria-Hungary. So guess what I'm going to do? I am going to start up a group. I'm going to get all the other countries as backative, right? So all of these territories here, they are going to join a group that is called the Balkan League, right? So all of them said, we need to combine ourselves together because you see, if we don't join together as one and support each other, Austria-Hungary is going to take over all of our land right here. They already took control over Bosnia, which is right here, right? Bosnia and Herzegovina. They already took control over it. So we really cannot allow them to continue to bully us. So that is what is going on. You're going to have conflict where you have throughout the period, you had people who are from Austria-Hungary, the Germanic tribe. They are always in war with people from Serbia and the other parts. So you always have those big wars. But the big thing that happened, ladies, was that the Archduke visited the Archduke from Austria-Hungary went to Bosnia. Both of them and the Archduke and his wife. So they went to Bosnia, and when they went to Bosnia, somebody killed the Archduke. Immediately as that person died, right? Because remember, this was like, it's a big assassination, you know, because this person was supposed to be the next leader of the empire. And because Serbia always wanted this area, they believe that it was Serbia who would have killed the Archduke Ferdinand, right? And so that is the conflict that was taking place. So you can see how the conflict in the area over these territories led to the Archduke visiting Bosnia because he believed that Bosnia and Herzegovina was no part of his land. They killed him here in one of the conflicting provinces. And once they killed him, the next issue that is going to take place is that Austria-Hungary is going to say, listen, is you, Serbia, kill the Archduke? You're the one who is in problem. And so that is going to cause the war. Don't worry about the other things that you see, because there are different perspectives on the First World War. There are different views out there about what led to the conflict in the Balkan area. So if you have supporting details of other arguments that people put forward out there to say that it was a larger issue, because some people could say it is Austria-Hungary people who killed King Ferdinand and want to blame Serbia. That view actually exists out there too. And Serbia, people from Serbia are saying, listen, we didn't do anything. They are trying to put it on us. It could be somebody from Romania or somebody from Bulgaria. So you can see the conflict that is taking place within that region. It's a lot of geographic conflict over land. The main issue here is over land, because the larger your empire is, the more powerful you are, the more people you have control over, the more powerful you are. And then remember, ladies, that most European countries are landlocked, right? So access to the sea is very important for trade and for protection. So if you don't have access to the sea, ships, you're going to have problem with trade and all of these different stuff. Because to pass this region, you have to pay somebody money to use the sea. Is it a little clearer?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
You sure?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Very good, very good. Make sure, because I don't want you say that, understand. All right, ladies, give me not a second, but let I pause the record. All right, ladies, so now you understand what is going on in the Balkan region, right? We know that a lot of conflict going on in there, and the conflict is really over land. Territories fighting over land. And you have also religious conflict in the area, ethnicity, all different type of stuff going on there. So the question I want Group 1 to answer is, why did Austria declare war on Serbia? And as we see right here, I basically give you a part of the answer already. So Group 1, ready? You can share screen.
Yes, sir. Oops, my apologies. Okay. Right. So you seen the PowerPoint?
Yes, I am.
Okay. So good morning, everyone. We will be answering the question in our presentation, why did Austria declare war on Serbia? And the group is Dina May and myself. So firstly, we have a small timeline that shows the events that would have contributed to Austria declaring war on Serbia. So of course, Austria declares war on Serbia after they only accept 10. Oops, sorry, there's a typo there. The first one should have talked about the assassination. So I'm going to have to fix that before submission. My apologies. But it should have talked about the assassination of the Archduke Franz Ferdinand and his wife Sophie. Then of course Austria is going to then go ahead and with nudging from Germany, send an ultimatum to Serbia, and Serbia is only going to accept 8 of Austria's 10 demands, and it is because of that Austria is going to go ahead and declare war on Serbia. And then following this, Russia is going to order for partial mobilization of its forces, followed by France mobilizing, and so on. So the first thing, and Mr. Hall did cover this, is the Balkans War. Hold on. All right, Shani said, I'm talking too fast. Okay, my apologies. I'll take time. So the Balkans War was that between 1878 and 1914, there was generally a lot of hostility in the Balkans, and this was mainly due to the weakening Ottoman Empire. This allowed countries within it to start to fight for independence and the greater powers surrounding it to try and take over parts of it. And Mr. Hall spoke about this, spoke about Austria-Hungary taking over Bosnia. And so because of this weakening in the empire, there was constantly war and hostility within that state, which is why I actually read that when it was that the assassination of the Duke had happened, people didn't really pay it any much mind because they're so used to war going on in that area, and they're so used to all this little war here, war this. So it never really, no one really was anticipated that it was going to turn into this total war. And so after the treaty,
one second. Is it that part of your confusion would have been you don't really understand much about the Ottoman Empire?
Sir, maybe you could you could say that too.
Okay.
But,
When you're through, then I'll just explain the Ottoman Empire.
Okay, no problem, sir. So after the Treaty of Berlin in 1878, Austria-Hungary was given the right to occupy and administer the Ottoman province of Bosnia Herzegovina. In 1908, after growing fears of Serbia and Russia becoming stronger, Austria-Hungary annexed Bosnia. This angered the Serbs because they had wanted Bosnia to be in their control. The results of the First Balkan War in 1912 were another cause of hostility between the two countries. As a result of this war, Serbia had gained control of the Adriatic coastline and had also taken over Albania. Austria-Hungary resented and feared the sudden growth of Serbia and wanted Serbia to give up both the Adriatic coast and Albania. So as you can see from what I just read, as Sir was saying, it was really a fight for land, because at that time, land was really important, more resources, and it was how you showed you were a powerful state or a powerful country, the more land you had conquered. And so it was this that really set hostility between the two provinces, between Austria-Hungary and Serbia. All right, so continuing, so
and
Russia
also,
go ahead, sir.
Go back to the next slide.
Oh, oops, hold on, let me see.
And also not only land, but as I said, remember that most of the territories were landlocked, meaning that they didn't have access to the sea. So the coast was very important. So that's one of the reasons why Serbia wanted access to the coast, and Austria-Hungary wanted to control that area. Go ahead, Shanae.
And also to add to that, Austria-Hungary and the Serbians didn't have common religion, so
yes, that is correct. So
Yes,
so the 2 points I want you to enforce, Louis, is that they wanted access to the coastal area, and they wanted access to the land, because most of them were actually landlocked. And you know the importance of sea. All right. Go ahead, Tommy Reynolds.
Oh, sir, could you just repeat the term that you just mentioned? You said that most of the land was what?
Landlocked.
Okay.
Sir, I also saw in a video, the same video I'm going to show to the presentation, that that's also contributed to well, not contributed, but the same thing with like the sea being important to Britain. Having a little hostility towards Germany, because Britain apparently ruled the sea, like their navy.
Yes.
And so when Germany started to impose on them and started to bring ships onto the sea, etc., that got Britain a little in a tizzy, because they had such control over the sea and over the naval and coastal regions.
Yes, very good, very good. Continue. Good presentation, thus.
Thank you, sir. So continuing on the Balkans War, so Russia, however, supported the Serbs, and Austria-Hungary mobilized their troops against one another. A peace treaty was drawn up by May 1930. Hold on, sorry, give me a So a peace treaty was drawn up, and by May 1930, the Treaty of London was signed. In this treaty, Serbia lost control of the Adriatic coast, and Albania was made an independent state. However, they did gain control of central and northern Macedonia. They felt this was inadequate and blamed Austria-Hungary for their loss of land. This was a significant factor in the hostility between the two sides, as it made Austria-Hungary fear Serbian growth and angered Serbia as they felt that whenever they made gains of land in the Balkans, the Austrians would thwart it. So this already setting up the stage now, so that anything happening would tick off. So that's what we're going to talk about next, which is the main event that most people accredit the beginning of the World War II, which is the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand and his wife Sophie. So in June 1940, in that summer, Austrian Archduke Franz Ferdinand, sorry, I'm probably made a mistake, World War I, yes. Archduke Franz Ferdinand and his wife Sophie traveled to Bosnia, which had been annexed by Austria-Hungary for a state visit. On June 28, the couple went to the capital of the city, Sarajevo, to inspect imperial troops stationed there. As they headed toward their destination, they narrowly escaped death when Serbian tourists threw a bomb at their open-topped car. Their luck ran out later that day, however, when their driver inadvertently drove them past 19-year-old Serbian nationalist Gavrilo Princip, who shot and killed Franz Ferdinand and his wife at point-blank range. Austria-Hungary was furious, and with Germany's support, declared war on Serbia on July 20. So this is like the most popular reason everyone talks about, the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. And just to add like some more facts in there, I was watching another video in my doing my research, and it actually said that Princip got the wrong guy, because granted, Franz Ferdinand, like, he wasn't the best guy, and a lot of people didn't like him. He was pretty hated because of his beliefs and his principles. He was very conservative, and so a lot of people didn't like him. But although he was conservative, one thing he did believe in was that he believed in peace and not war. Like, he never believed in war. And the people, like, the video was saying that if he hadn't been killed, he would have probably been the one to stop the war from happening, because he was just so anti-war. So that was pretty interesting to me, that they killed the guy who probably could have stopped this whole thing. All right, so after the assassination of Archduke by Princip, we are going to have the ultimatum, which was given from Austria-Hungary to Serbia. So Dina May.
Okay, hey guys. Hi. So Austria gave Serbia an ultimatum after the assassination of the Archduke and his wife. So after securing the unconditional support of its powerful ally Germany, Austria-Hungary presented Serbia with a rigid ultimatum on July 23, 1914, demanding, among other things, that all anti-Austrian propaganda within Serbia be suppressed, and that Austria-Hungary be allowed to conduct its own investigation into the Archduke's killing. So Austria and Serbia already had their tensions, and then there was the killing of the Archduke, and then they're like, okay, we can, if we get German, if we align with Germany, we're supposed to, anything that we do, we're supposed to can win. So they're like, okay. So they offer the ultimatum, but they never really care about it. They never really care whether or not Serbia would agree to it or not. So what happens is, though Serbia effectively accepted all of Austria's demands except for one, the Austrian government broke diplomatic relations with the other country on July 25th and went ahead with military preparedness measures. Meanwhile, alerted to the impending crisis, Russia, Serbia's own mighty supporter in the Balkans, began its own initial steps towards military mobilization against Austria. In Belgrade, next slide, Michael.
Oh, sorry, just to point out, this is a picture on the corner, is actually the declaration of war from Austria-Hungary. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. That's the actual declaration of war from Austria-Hungary, war on Serbia.
Yes, ma'am. In Belgrade, on the afternoon of July 25th, convinced that Austria-Hungary was preparing for a fight, Serbian Prime Minister Nikola Pasic ordered the Serbian army to mobilize. Pasic himself delivered the Serbian answer to the ultimatum to Ghislaine at the Austrian embassy just before the 6 p.m. deadline. Serbia's response effectively accepted all the terms of the ultimatum but one. It would not accept Austria-Hungary's participation in any internal inquiry, stating that this would be a violation of the law of criminal procedure. This response did not much to appeal Pasic and his country to international observers of the conflict. To Vienna, however, it made little difference. Ghislaine bags packed on car, waiting to drive him. That's the representative from Austria, waiting to drive him to the railway station, broke the dual monarchy's diplomatic relations with Serbia, and left to catch his train. 3 days later, on July 28, 1914, Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia, beginning the First World War. So the thing is, Austria, even though Serbia accepted all of Austria's terms and conditions, except that one, that was just the icing on the cake for Austria. Austria wanted to conduct this investigation to find out what was going on in Serbia, but Serbia said no, we don't want that. It's an invasion of our privacy. So it was just the icing on the cake for Austria to this, because Austria had already decided to declare war, but then that was just the icing. Not accepting all the terms was just the icing on the cake. Like, yeah, man, and I really give me a reason. So yeah.
But to add to what Diname said, like Serbia couldn't accept it. If Serbia had accepted all of all the terms of the ultimatum, they would have literally lost everything. And so the ultimatum was unreasonable. And I don't know, but maybe Austria-Hungary knew that they couldn't accept everything on the ultimatum because it was rigid, it was unreasonable, and Serbia could not accept it. And so Austria decided, okay, we're going to war, and Germany gassing them the whole time, telling them, yeah, man, come on, we can do this, we will go war. And of course, that is how Austria declared war on Austria declared war on Serbia July 28, 1914. And that began what we now know as the First World War. Yes, I was trying to be dramatic. Okay, thank you guys. Oh, wait, the video. Okay, hold on. So this video basically just answers the question of who started the war or how World War I started. So give me a second. Okay. Let me know if you're hearing me.
By the summer of 1914, Europe was in a crisis. Just weeks before, Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, had been assassinated in Sarajevo by a Serbian-backed terrorist. Now, just a few weeks later, the continent's largest armies were mobilizing against each other, with new nations joining the fight seemingly every week. The world watched with bated breath as Europe marched to war. So what happened? How did a seemingly irrelevant local conflict in Southeast Europe become a world war? And why did Britain decide to get involved? Well, before we answer those questions, a reminder to subscribe to the Imperial War Museum's YouTube channel for more videos just like this every 2 weeks.
When people ask how the First World War began, it's often couched in terms of a domino effect, a series of events that were almost preordained. But what I would say is that if anyone had suggested in June 1914 in Britain that a world war might be about to break out, and they would have been met with disbelief, really.
Britain hadn't fought a war on the continent since the final defeat of Napoleon at Waterloo 99 years previously. Rather than a war in Europe, Britain was primarily occupied with its own internal affairs.
As the 20th century dawned, Britain's one of the greatest powers on earth. It rules over this vast global empire. It's so big that every fourth person on earth owes its allegiance to the British crown.
The Britain was the world's merchant sailor. His flag encircled the globe. 60% of the vessels on any ocean were his.
The lifeblood of the British Empire was the sea. The Royal Navy policed the waves so that its merchant ships could trade across the globe. This brought the British Empire vast wealth, but not all of its citizens were able to share in it. Many overseas subjects were demanding greater freedom from the empire to control their own affairs, while at home, domestic issues threatened to boil over.
There's this huge inequality of wealth that underpins British life at the turn of the 20th century. Only 2/3 of men have got the right to vote. Absolutely no woman has the right to vote. So I'd say by the time you get to 1914, this is quite a volatile country.
The most divisive issue, however, was that of home rule for Ireland. Some people in Ireland wanted to be ruled from Dublin rather than Westminster, while others were bitterly opposed to this, including some vocal British politicians and a sizable contingent in the north of Ireland who considered themselves to be British. As the Home Rule Bill made its way through Parliament, rival militias began to arm themselves on either side of the issue.
There's a very real threat that this is going to spill over into violence in the summer of 1914. And so to suggest to people in Britain that the conflict that's about to occur will come from Europe rather than from Ireland, most people would have been very, very shocked to hear that.
But while domestic tensions were rising in Britain, new tensions were coming to the fore in Europe. Germany was the new kid on the block with big ambitions. After defeating France in the Franco-Prussian War of 1870, the most powerful German state, Prussia, allied with smaller Germanic states to create a united Germany. But this new nation wanted an empire of its own.
Britain really initially admired this new nation. Britain really actually saw it as a friend, but Imperial Germany soon began to threaten Britain's sense of supremacy, its determination to up its industrial output, up its military strength, and most crucially for Britain, a rival fleet of warships.
The German ships maneuver in the cold waters of the North Sea.
This new German navy was a threat to Britain's naval dominance, the glue that held the empire together, and something for which Britain could not stand. That rivalry then turned into an arms race as each nation tried to outproduce the other with ever greater feats of technology. This culminated in the production of dreadnought battleships, which were seen as the nuclear weapons of their day.
That factor means Britain's now started to see Germany as a threat. By the time you get to, say, 1907, Europe's really split into two opposing camps.
Germany had disturbed the delicate balance of power in Europe. France, fearing this new empire on their doorstep, allied with Russia in the east, an unlikely friendship for two of Europe's most ideologically opposed nations. That then left Germany feeling surrounded and pushed them to form an alliance with the Austro-Hungarian Empire and to a lesser extent, Italy. Finally, Britain and its empire, afraid of German domination on the continent, drifted closer to France and Russia, though without going as far as forming an alliance.
You've got Germany, Austria, Hungary and Italy, and you've got France, Russia, and to some extent Britain. There's still no immediate reason for war between the two. It would take a crisis to turn tensions into an armed conflict.
And that crisis came in the summer of 1914. The Balkans in southeast Europe had been a hotbed of unrest for some time, with 2 wars in the preceding 3 years. Those wars had made Austria-Hungary's neighbour Serbia much larger, prompting tensions between the two nations to rise even further. When Archduke Franz Ferdinand was assassinated in June by a Serbian-backed terrorist, Austria-Hungary felt it had no choice but to assert its dominance.
Austria-Hungary sets out to punish Serbia. It wants to quash support for Serbian nationalism. It's encouraged by its ally Germany. So after Serbia failed to meet the terms of a very draconian ultimatum, Austria-Hungary declares war on Serbia. And this act of war, this stirs up these old tensions and anxieties right across the continent because it draws in supporters and allies on both sides.
When Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia, Russia came in to back the Serbs in defence of a fellow Slavic nation. When Germany, in support of its ally, then declared war on Russia, that brought France into the war on Russia's side. Italy, however, did not join the war, as its alliance with Germany and Austria-Hungary was a defensive pact. In a matter of weeks then, Europe's largest powers were primed for war. But Britain was still in two minds over whether it should be involved.
It agonized over.
Okay, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. It was really informative for me. It does start out talking about Britain though, but that background did help me, to understand the war fully better. So thank you so much for listening. Mr. Hall, hand over to you. We are finished our presentation.
All right, ladies, thank you very much. Good presentation, but there is just something I want to share for clarity. Where it is. Now, ladies, before we had in the Balkan area, the empire that had control over this area before, right? So it would be Hungary, not Austria, but Hungary. Because remember, Austria-Hungary is two empires that came together, right? So all of this area comes straight down to Egypt and part of North Africa was what we call the Ottoman Empire. Just like how you have Austria-Hungary as a big empire, before Austria-Hungary became a big empire, right? You had the Ottoman Empire, and a series of war would have happened that would have led to the breakup of this empire, right? And I believe right here today, the only piece of the Ottoman Empire that is left today is Turkey, that country that is called Turkey, and it is located somewhere around here. Now, all of this area, the Balkan area, was originally part of the Ottoman Empire. And so Hungary and the Ottoman people in Hungary, they are going to go to war with the Ottoman Empire for their independence. And they got their independence. So Austrian Hungary is going to group up together to form one big kingdom. And at the end of the war between the Ottoman Empire and Hungary, this area right here, which is what we call Bosnia and Herzegovina, they would have received, they got control, Hungary got control over that area, but Serbia received their independence and they did not really want, Serbia did not want Hungary to have control over this part, which is the Bosnia and Herzegovina. So that is how the Ottoman Empire is part of the conflict. Now, ladies, Spain, France, Germany, Russia, all of these areas in the world is not what we have today in terms of nation state, in terms of geography. Boundaries has changed constantly based on war. But the most significant part about this area is that, let us see if I can, let us show you a map of the world. And for you to understand why this sea, the Mediterranean Sea and the Balkan Sea, is very important to territories like Russia, Albania, Serbia, Austria, Hungary. And all of this area today is Turkey. All right, so let us show you a map. Let us see where it is. All right. I'm going to show you how the sea is very important to that region. Because there are two things that is taking place there. People is fighting over the sea and they're fighting over the land, access to the sea. Wow. All right, ladies. It's not like Jamaica that is surrounded by the sea. We don't share borders with anybody. Same for Cuba and most Caribbean territories. The only Caribbean country really that, well, with island that share border is Haiti and the Dominican Republic. But if you look at most of these countries here, most of these countries actually shares borders with, I'm talking land border with other people. Now look at, if we look at Brazil, right? Brazil have a very large coastal area. Guyana has a little piece, Suriname, but there are some area like Bolivia that is landlocked. Sasha K? Sasha K, you're here? What we mean by landlocked is that a country is surrounded by other countries and they have no access to the sea, landlocked. So there's no access to the sea because this country is surrounded. So if a ship should bring goods to this country, it must pass through Chile. And so Bolivia would have to pay Chile a lot of money when it comes to goods, because not every goods you have that can come on plane. Now let us go over to Europe.
Sir, that's what you mean. Well,
yes.
I have a better understanding now.
Yes. Now, look, the reason why Britain was able to have such a large navy was because Britain was not landlocked. Britain had a lot of sea around her. So she was able to move her ships from Jamaica without any problem and all of these different territories. So that's why she was one of the most powerful country when it comes to navy, right? However, if we look deeper into the Balkan area, most of these territories have changed as after the First and the Second World War. If we look at this area right here, this is Serbia. All of this area is Serbia. If you realize that Serbia has no access to the sea, Albania, which is right here, would have taken away her access to the sea, right? Now, the only way ships can come in is a lot of money they have to pay for the ships to come in, you know, because one, the ship have to pass North Africa, right? And the Muslim control that area. So they have to pass through here, going to the Mediterranean Sea, and here to here. So you can see the reason why Serbia really wanted this piece of land right here, which is Bosnia and Herzegovina, because she wanted access to the sea so she could trade freely or pay less when it comes to trade. Now, the reason why Russia was interested in the area too is that if you look at Russia at the time, all of this area would have been Russia, all of this area. Even though Russia has sea up north, which is this area, the issue is that most of the trading was taking place here. And so that's one of the reasons why Russia wanted to move her ships from the Black Sea into the Mediterranean Sea so she could have access to places like Africa and other parts of the world, right? So you understand what I mean by the term landlocked. If you look at most European countries today, very much landlocked by other territories. If you look at it, they don't have access to the sea. Even Austria-Hungary that was divided. Today, Austria-Hungary has no sea around her because piece of her land was taken away after the First and the Second World War, and it was a new country was formed. So she basically, today, Austria has no control to the sea. And Hungary was basically, look at Hungary, right? The only piece of the empire that is left today. No access to the sea too. So that is the understanding. Is it a little clearer now, ladies?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
Good, good. All right, now. So we look at why Austria declared war on Serbia. The next event that is going to happen is that once Austria declared war on Serbia, Russia is going to mobilize her forces. So that's group 2. Why did Russia mobilize its forces?
They will come in.
All right.
Oh, this way. I'm gonna see in the screen.
It's coming up.
1 minute.
Yeah, I was seeing it now, Shani.
Oh, you go on slideshow.
You see something at the top, Shani? That's a view, like present, or something that's a present.
No, I'm not seeing it like that. Well, we have to just present.
Yeah, just go back on the other. Yeah, just present it like that because we can see clearly.
Yeah.
Okay. Dejane.
Oh yeah. So hello, good afternoon. This is our group. Why did Russia mobilize her force? So at the first, because sir, like I heard you say we must put a timeline of the World War. So these are the timeline. I'm not sure if we supposed to read this. What is it, sir?
It's a presentation, so you can go ahead.
Okay, so let me start. So on June 28th, 1914, Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria and his wife, Sophie, are assassinated by Bosnian Serb nationalists in Sarajevo. On July 28th, 1914, the World War began, when Austria-Hungary declares a war on Serbia. August the 1st to the 28th, 1914, Germany declares war on Russia. France, and Belgium. Britain declared wars on Germany. Austria declares war on Russia. Montenegro declares war on Austria. France declares war on Austria. Britain declares war on Austria. Montenegro declares war on Germany. Japan declares war on Germany. Austria declares war on Belgium. So that was between August 1st to the 28th. September 6, 1914, the First Battle of the Marne begins. The Germans had advanced to within 30 miles of Paris, but over the next 2 days, the French reinforced by 6,000 infantrymen who are transported to the front of hundreds of taxis. The Germans dig in north of the Aisne River, and the trench warfare that is typify the Western Front for the next 4 years begins. November the 5th, 1914, Britain and France declares war on the Ottoman Empire.
One second before you go further. I like your timeline, because this timeline that is your activity that I'm going to give each of the group on Tuesday to do a timeline of the entire war. So that is very good. Now, the timeline that I was interested in was to right up until the Russia mobilized our forces, or the events that happened immediately after that. So go right straight to the point on why they mobilized.
Okay, sir, will do.
But good, very good timeline so far, but that is for next week, the entirety of the war, but good timeline.
Russian mobilization of troops. Why did Russia mobilize her forces? Key factors that led to this: nationalism. Russia felt that she had to support the Slavs in Serbia because they shared common Christian beliefs, and they felt that they should help them because they weren't a big empire like Russia, and they didn't have many troops and forces.
Mm-hmm.
Second reason, military strength and preparation. Russia military support and expansion had given the politicians confidence in the war to act, and these planning of the war meant that for early mobilization. So, because the strength of the Russian Empire, the Russian army, the politician and the head of state thought they had confidence that the war will be short and they will win the war. So that's why they started to plan for the war. In planning for the war, this meant that mobilization had to begin early. So troops had to began to move into Austria to start war, or near Austria. The third reason, the improvement of technology. Russian leaders were willing to take a risk of quick victory, as I said before, due to the enormous army, better railways, and improved weapons. So
yes, you can go, Shani.
Okay. So Russia had good railways and weaponry, because after the war, the Balkans War, they were embarrassed. Yes, I think it was. They were embarrassed that they lost the war, so they began to obtain weaponry and started invested in railways and etc.
And also to add to that, after the Japan War of 1904, the Japan War, there was this revolution in Russia that they began, as Shani said, they, because of humiliation and stuff, they began to say that, okay, so all them for beat we, and we is a big country, all them for beat we, and all them for do this and all them for do that. So them want proof to everybody say, yes, them can have the most military power, them can have what you call it now, them can have better railways. So them just try with all their might for just focus on them improving them weapons and those stuff. I can continue, Shani.
Yeah. I think this is the fourth point, the network of alliances that Russia had with France and Britain. France and Russia and Britain had an agreement called the Triple Entente. Is that, yes, that's something that is a triple something alliances where Russia yes. In times of war, Russia had to side with France, and if France had any threat, Russia had to side. Russia. So there were these three countries were like not necessarily brothers and sisters, but they were bucketed for each other. So if somebody declared war on Britain, France and Russia had to step in, vice versa. Okay, the Bosan crisis, 19...
Bosnian. Bosnian.
The Bosnian crisis, 1908 to 1909. This left Russia in humiliation, and they wanted to redeem themselves and their strength to support the Tsar Nicholas II. So in this in the Bosnian crisis, this is where Austria-Hungary and Russia had an agreement that when Austria-Hungary took over, can I go on the map? When Austria-Hungary took over this part, I don't know if you've seen me touch it right here. It name
Herzegovina.
Yes, and the other country.
Bosnia.
Yeah, Bosnia, that they would allow Russia access to the Mediterranean, I think.
Yes.
The Mediterranean Sea right here. They will allow them so they could trade. But in that agreement, Austria-Hungary didn't withhold their freedom their end. And so Russia was left in humiliation that they couldn't, because they couldn't do anything at that point. So yes, so to redeem themselves from the humiliation, they thought that winning the war would help them. Yes, and to help them, the support, the strength for the Tsar Nicholas II, because after the failure of the Ottoman Empire,
It's Tsar Nicholas II.
Is Tsar.
Oh, Tsar Nicholas. He became the controller of Russia, and when he became the controller, there was a war with Japan, I think. No, there was a war with Japan, and they lost that war. So everybody turned against him. So he had to made a politician. He had to make a parliament. Yes, he had to make a parliament to ease like the tension off him, and then that kind of showed that he was weak. So to redeem that, he wanted to go to war.
Yes. Very good presentation. And I like how you explain the conflict as you put it in the word of redemption. Russia wants to redeem herself because she would have been humiliated. In other words, them shame Russia in the Yugo Rush-Japan war. So that is one reason she would have lost that war. And in addition to that, Austria-Hungary basically played her when it comes to the area of Herzegovina and Bosnia, right? Because what the agreement that Russia, and I think Russia was a little bit selfish, because at the same time, because remember, people from Russia and Serbia, they have the same ethnicity. And Russia went behind Serbia's back and said, okay, we are going to support you, Austria-Hungary, if we are going to support you as Austria-Hungary if you take control over this area that Serbia wanted. If you allow us to go from the Black Sea into the Mediterranean Sea. But guess what? Austria-Hungary annexed this area that Serbia wanted, and Germany said to Russia, if you think you're bad, try and do something about it. And so Russia was fearful. And so at that time, Russia felt that she was basically humiliated a second time. So everywhere she turned, she's being bullied. Russia is being bullied. When we study Russian Revolution after this, we're going to see the reason why Russia wanted to prove that she was of worth. And you would have touched some of it in a presentation, Shanae, because Russia mobilizing her forces. Once Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia, Russia is mobilizing her forces here, because Russia is saying that if I mobilize my force and come to this side, then I could take control over this area, so I could have access to the Mediterranean Sea, which I've always wanted access to. All right? And it was also a level of fear. So it's not only to redemption, but Russia also had some level of fear that, listen, if there's a war between Austria-Hungary and Serbia, then guess what? It could be that Austria-Hungary could one day come and take full control over Russia, or want to take lands from Russia. And then Russia also had the confidence that, listen, I signed a treaty with France and Britain to say that if I should go war with any of these countries, then Britain and France would come to assist me. So that's one of the reasons why she was able to mobilize her forces, because she said, listen, I have backative, as Shanae would have stated. Very good presentation, Shanae. You can, and Dijonay, you can stop sharing.
So we had a video to share.
Go ahead, man, share the video.
Oh, and in addition to that, Russia didn't want to lose the what name there? The support of the Serbs. Yeah.
Yes, that is good. So ladies, that is about 5 points already. So ensure that you write down those 5 points, right? Because you see in the document question, they usually ask you these questions, why Russia mobilize their forces, and you could say these are the reasons why. Go ahead.
Okay, so we will be doing a video presentation of some of the reasons why they entered the war.
Influence of the first.
You're hearing, so first of all, you guys hearing the video?
Yes.
Okay.
The Russian military was actually relatively impressive. It's relatively impressive almost because of its pure size. Because Russia was a massive country, a massive population, so it could call upon a very, very large number of people to fight in the wars. So it was the largest army in Europe with over 1.4 million soldiers and a further 3 million in reserves. So nearly 5 million soldiers altogether. And the thing that really was problematic about the Russian military is that on the surface, it was very strong and very impressive, but deep down there are a number of issues. So the impressive nature of the Russian military was a very surface level. Okay. Surface level. On the face of it, it looked very impressive, but deeper down it had a number of issues. So there existed a number of incompetent generals who would, who managed to somehow hold senior positions. Russian soldiers were the least educated of any European army. This is generally problematic. And you also have the problem of Russian industry being underdeveloped. Underdeveloped compared to the rest of Europe. So compared to the rest of Europe. So that's the problem that the Russian army had. And something that is problematic about this is a war as lengthy and as costly as the First World War effectively exposed the weaknesses of this Russian army, and therefore the victories in Russia were very short-lived because they managed to get victories through the sheer might and impressive nature of their numbers. But when it came to the higher levels of fighting against the German and Austro-Hungarian empires, things started to go downhill. One example was the Great Retreat, of 1950.
Shanae,
yes, sir.
I'm going to ask you to post this video in the Google Classroom.
Sir?
Yes?
Okay.
Someone has asked me if you can let her in again.
All right, so post the video in the Google Classroom because I want the other groups to get a chance to present, and it is now 21 minutes past 12.
Okay, sir, no problem.
All right, but good presentation thus far. All right. Why did Germany supported Austria? Which group is that? So why did Germany support Austria?
Good afternoon, everybody. We'll be presenting on why Germany supported Austria. This is the timeline of chief events of World War I. In 1914, Archduke Franz Ferdinand was assassinated. Then, soon after that, the First World War begins. Then you have the First Battle of Marne. In 1915 is the first time Germany used poison gas, and then Lusitania was sunk. In 1916, you had the battles of Jutland and the Battle of Verdun. In 1917, you had the Russian Revolution and the United States declared war. In 1918, Russia left the war, the Allies advanced, and Germany signed armistice. These are different alliance systems that existed. In 1813 to 1875, we had Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Russia. This was devised by German Chancellor Otto von Bismarck. It was aimed at neutralizing the rivalry between these countries with an agreement. In 1897, we had Germany and Austria. It secured the empire's southern borders and also wooed the isolated Russia back into his alliance system. And they wanted a general treaty of assistance if any of these countries were attacked. In 1882, we had the Triple Alliance. Italy joined the Dual Alliance, and it reinforced Bismarck's ground even more and utilized the French and Italian friction over Tunis. In 1881, formal and secret renewed in 1884 and 1887. A second treaty provided that had no territorial changes took place in the Balkans, and Austria annexed Bosnia and Herzegovina. In 1887, Germany and Russia. There is a secret treaty between the two to neutralize Germany, and it was the downfall of Bismarck's system. And in 1892, Britain, France, and Russia, the Triple Alliance, they had the Entente Cordiale, which was France and Britain, and Russia stated moral obligation to support each other.
Okay, sir. Sir, sorry for the constant in and out. I'm having some Wi-Fi problems. Okay, so it's important to note that Germany's support for Austria is when I was doing my research, I found out many articles entitled this as the blank check of 1914. So on July 4th, 1914 in Berlin, Kaiser Wilhelm II of Germany pledges his country's unconditional support for whatever action Austria-Hungary chooses to take in its conflict with Serbia. A long-running rivalry thrown into crisis by the assassination. The previous one, the 28th Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria and his wife by a Serbian nationalist during an official visit to Sarajevo, Bosnia. It was barely a week after Franz Ferdinand's murder that the Austrian Foreign Ministry sent an envoy, Alexander Graf von Hoyos, carried a memorandum from the office to the Austrian Foreign Secretary, Leopold Berchtold, expressing the need for action in the tumultuous Balkans region, as well as a personal letter to the same effect from Emperor Franz Joseph to Kaiser Wilhelm.
There are two different perspectives on why Germany supported Austria. This perspective is from the book German War Aims in the First World War by Fritz Fischer. Firstly, Germany had plans for war before 1914 and used the Archbishop's assassination as an excuse to carry them out. So this is saying Germany already planned to start a war or be in a war, and they just pretended and they used the assassination as a way to carry out their plans. There was pressure from domestic groups to expand, and they needed to quell citizen discontent, and they wanted to stop the growth of socialism. So there were people in Germany who wanted Germany to expand and to grow, and there were also citizens that were not happy and were complaining. So one of the reasons they joined the war was to quell the people's concerns. Germany encouraged Austria to start a crisis so that they could defeat France and Russia. Germany had issues with both countries, who were allied together by the Franco-Russian alliance, and believed that this was an opportunity to defeat both, and dominating Europe and gaining more colonies was also something they hoped to accomplish. So by starting this crisis, Germany hoped they could defeat France and Russia, which should be getting off two of their biggest problems. And then if they defeated France and Russia, they hoped to dominate Europe and to gain more colonies. Chancellor Theobald Bethmann Hollweg wanted Germany to become a dominant power. If Germany is on the winning side of this war, then they become more powerful and influential in Europe. He also hoped to annex Belgium, which was part of France and Russia. So if Germany was to win the war, they would become more powerful and grow. And also, they wanted to annex Belgium, which would be like to spite France and Russia. This is a picture of the German Kaiser and his generals.
Okay, so German historian Gerhard Ritter provided a counter argument in his book of why the Germans supported the Austrians. So Gerhard Ritter stated that Austria was determined on a risky war path, which inevitably pulled Germany into the war. Germany, motivated by the desire to keep Austria as a great power to prevent Russia from dominating the Balkans. He also goes on to state that Germany's support for Austria was not a long-term plan, but merely a response to the particular crisis of Russian mobilization. Ritter states that Germany miscalculated, as the Germans did not expect Britain would join the conflict, that their support for Austria would not mean war, as the other nations would be appalled by the murder of their heir to the throne. He also goes on to state that military force was necessary and important, as their plans to meet the threats from Russia involved war on France. Once Russia seemed intent on war, those plans had to be implemented.
Okay, good afternoon. So factors to consider why Germany supported Austria. Germany needed alliances. They were new to the world as a superpower, and this made them vulnerable to attacks from other powers. Back in 1879, they signed a defensive alliance with Austria and another with Russia, which later ended because Russia resented Austria, and so Russia thought a friend of an enemy is also an enemy. Sorry about that. France also resented Germany for defeating them in 1870 to 71 and the seizure of Alsace-Lorraine. This resulted in Germany having to watch their backs for France because it was likely that resentment would turn into a need for revenge, and so they needed an alliance who would help if that happened. In 1892 to 95, France and Russia, who both faced a common enemy, Germany, forced a defensive military alliance. For Germany, this meant she had to keep a lookout for not one, but two powers, for it was likely that another war was coming, and without backup, she would lose. In 1870, Germany built armed forces and later decided to turn it into a naval expansion. Britain became anxious about this, and it led to a naval race between the two. Now, not only Germany had to watch her back for one, but three superpowers. She came to the conclusion that she needed an alliance, so she supported Austria, and in return, got them as an alliance.
In conclusion, there are two historians who speak about why Germany helped Austria. They are Fritz Fischer and Herald Ritter. Fischer alludes to it being more for personal gain, stating that Germany had war plans and used assassination as an excuse. He also says that Germany hoped to dominate Europe. Ritter alludes that it was to defend themselves and Austria, and that they had no plans to start a war. He states that they were responding to Russian mobilization and that they did not expect Britain to join the conflict. Factors which should be considered when analyzing this are the fact that Germany needed allies and had three countries against them, etc. This is the end of our presentation.
All right, ladies, a very good presentation. No video?
There's a video at the end. Alyssa, go to the thing there. I've provided a link on it.
All right, if you can do about
Yes, sir. I'm just gonna play about 5 minutes of the video because it's a very extensive video. It's about 16 minutes. So I just provide like a brief section of it that we can watch. Play from 143, Alyssa, because it's a lot. So about 7 minutes in.
My computer's not
Ladies, are you hearing?
No, sir, we're not hearing.
All right. So we'll post the link to the video.
Yes, sir. I'll do that. I'll post a link.
Yes.
The classroom.
In the classroom.
Sir, quick question.
Go ahead.
Will the PowerPoints be posted in the classroom so that we can have access to the different PowerPoints?
All right. So there's a link. What I have set up a Google Classroom for one member of the group to submit the PowerPoint. So what I'm going to, you can just post it in the classroom. So you're going to post it 2 times. One in the part that you're submitting for grading, and the next one is for access to your classroom, classmates.
All right.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, go ahead. Next group. So after Germany supported Austria, France is going to mobilize her forces. Next group.
Okay, so is everybody seeing my screen?
Yes, we're seeing it now.
Oh. Okay, so this is why did France mobilize their forces, and it's done by me and Daniel, but Daniel's not here today, so I'll be the only one presenting. So first we have the timeline, and this ranges from July to August 1914. And so July 23, we see Austria issues an ultimatum to Serbia. And then the 28th, Austria declares war on Serbia after they reject some of the conditions of the ultimatum. And the 29th, Russia orders partial mobilization of their forces. The 30th, Germany mobilized their forces and demand that Russia demobilize. Then the 1st of August, France mobilized their army. The German ultimatum to Russia expires, and that is to telling them to demobilize their army. And then Germany declares war as a result of Russia not demobilizing. The second, we see that Russia declares war, and Germany issues an ultimatum to Belgium to ask them to allow the German troops to pass through Belgium. What's happening? What? Sarah, my computer is acting up. I'm coming.
All of us, not only you alone.
Okay, so the third, Germany declares war on France. And then the fourth, Germany forces invade Belgium, and the British government issues an ultimatum to Germany stating that it must withdraw from Belgium. And then Germany refused, so Britain declares war. They gave them a time limit, and by like 12 o'clock, they were supposed to withdraw their forces, and Germany did not, so Britain declared war. The 6th, Austria declares war on Russia. And the 10th, Britain and France declare war on the Austro-Hungarian Empire. So now, what were the reasons for France forces to mobilize? So one is Germany's challenge to the French Empire. So after a humiliating defeat in the Franco-Prussian War, the French had to pay a fine and give up their eastern provinces of Alsace-Lorraine to the German Empire. So we all know about the Franco-Prussian War. Prussia is a German state, as you know, they were talking about in previous presentations. So we know that France and Prussia went to war over Alsace-Lorraine, and France lost this war. So one of the terms in the Treaty of Frankfurt, France had to pay a fine, and they also had to give up Alsace-Lorraine to the German states, and this was very embarrassing for the French Empire, as they really wanted Alsace-Lorraine, you know, with the resources that's going back to rivalry and trade. So another challenge we see to the German Empire, another challenge we see by the Germans to the French Empire is the two Moroccan crises. So in the first Moroccan crisis, Germany supported Morocco's independence, knowing that France wanted control. So the first Moroccan crisis, this started due to the fact that Britain, this all stemmed from Britain and France Entente de Cordal. We all know about the scramble for Africa. So in the Entente Cordal, it's a friendly understanding. So Britain and France had this understanding that, okay, France, you're allowed to, you're allowed to explore Morocco, and Britain, I'm allowed to explore Egypt without there's any conflict between us. And then France and Spain, they had an agreement that they could both, like in a sense, had a mutual respecting that they were both, they could both, what's the word? They could both be in Morocco, but France would just had a greater control over Morocco. So Germany did not like this, and being provoking, they did not have any interest in Morocco whatsoever. But they were being provoking and said that, no, we want Morocco we support Morocco having their independence. You, France, do not have any control. You do not have the right to be wanting colonial control over Morocco. So this led to a huge thing, and it ended up that they had to go to a convention in Spain, Algiers, let's just say Spain. So as a result of this now, the France, Russia, Britain, Spain, and Germany, they all came to the agreement that France was supposed to, they're allowed to have control of Morocco's affairs, but no country whatsoever is supposed to take colonial actions in Morocco without consulting the other European powers. So this is leading up to the second Moroccan riot now, where there was an anti-European riot occurring in Morocco, and this is 1911, so around 7 years after the first Moroccan crisis. So as a result of the anti-European riot occurring in Morocco, France sent in their troops in attempts to calm down the war, like contain the war, and Germany saw this as them basically disrespecting the agreement that all had that nobody will, go into Morocco. So Germany then took naval action in attempts to challenge the French troops, in a sense saying that you're not supposed to be in here, like why are you here? So then this created a next huge conflict, and in the end, France France was supported by Russia, and this second Moroccan war, this almost led to France declaring war on Germany, and then they were backed by the Russians and Britain. So it was all sorted out. So as a result of this, Germany kind of backed down and said, okay, you guys do whatever you want to do. So as a result of these events, so them taking away a loss learned from France, them continuously challenging them in the first Moroccan crisis and the second Moroccan crisis, basically provoking them. France basically had it out for them. They were just waiting for any opportunity they could to, in a sense, give them payback, exact revenge on them. So yeah, these challenges which Germany kept on facing to the French Empire was one of the reasons why France mobilized their army. So our next is the buildup of military power and war plans. So in preparing for the likely occurrence of a war, extensively destructive, the state leaders of imperial territories involved strengthening their militia. So as we know from before, one of the long-term causes of the World War was the building up of military. They were getting all European powers were basically building up their military. So France grew its military expenditure on the size of their army. So they were getting more, so they started getting more tanks, planes, artillery, basically preparing themselves. So after these, basically preparing themselves for the Germans, not necessarily, I'll explain this. So after the Moroccan crisis, France started building up the military more. So they got more tanks, planes, they started conscripting more men, expanding the military as a result of them planning war for Germany. So, and the French was focused more than ever on how to attack the Germans, and they developed the Plan 17. So the Plan 17 was basically one of the war plans they had, again, specifically developed in attempts to attack the Germans. So yeah, them having more military power and them also having a war plan was one of the reasons why they mobilized their forces. So our next reason for the mobilization of their forces is the alliances they had. So through France's interest in the Russian military and the Russo-French military political alliance, this is the Franco-Russian alliance, as we know about. This alliance was established as a response to the Triple Alliance, which was a military bloc headed by Germany. And then we also have Britain and France in the Entente Cordial. They also had a great relation, and this was in mind. With this in mind, France knew if they mobilized their army, they would have the support from Britain and Russia. So they had, again, as we kept on talking about during the Moroccan crisis and all the challenges which Germany was giving to France, they always had support from Britain and Russia. Those were like the main countries they had backing them. So with the Franco-Russian alliance now, we know that through alliances, it's basically set in stone that if one country goes to war, if you're in alliance with that country, you also have to go to war in a case backing them. So with the Franco-Russian alliance, France had to mobilize the army because they were in alliance with them. But they also knew that they had like a understanding, a friendship with Britain. They knew they had a friendship with Britain, so they knew that if they mobilized the army anyways, they will also get the backing from Britain. So yeah, they will also have nationalism. So through the French ideas of liberty, equality, and fraternity, and the French democracy, nationalism spread across France like wildfire, and they were motivated to fight and defend their country. So during this time, it's believed that the French believed that they would have been supported by their citizens, and no matter they knew that they would be supported by their citizens if they went to war. They knew that their citizens were in support of them, going back and reclaiming Alsace-Lorraine. So yeah, they knew they had the backing, and they knew that there was spirit in the air for them to go to war. So yeah, that's the reason why France mobilized their army. So now I have a little video which speaks more about the French army. It's very short, so yeah.
Faction: the French Army, the First World War. In January 1914, the French Army had 47 divisions. The strength of the army consisted of 777,000 French and 46,000 colonial troops in 21 regional corps. French troops were deployed within France and along the eastern frontier as part of Plan 17, which was a strategy devised by General Ferdinand Foch and General Joseph Joffre for the invasion of Germany. With the fear of war with Germany becoming a reality, 2.9 million men were mobilized during the summer of 1914. The first months of the war saw heavy losses on the Western Front, forcing the French government to conscript men up to the age of 45. As the war progressed, the structure of the French army changed. By 1918, 40% of French troops on the Western Front were artillerymen. The increased demand and use of machine guns, armored cars, tanks, and planes lowered the numbers in the infantry. A total of 8.7 million soldiers had been called up to fight in the French army by the end of the war. France suffered 4.2 million casualties, including 1.3 million dead. Subscribe to see more history videos.
Okay, so this is the end of our presentation. Thank you everyone for listening.
All right, very good presentation, very comprehensive. I like the presentation thus far. The next group, why Britain declared war on Germany. Or for this group, you want us to do it on Monday, the first thing on Monday?
I have to ask my group what she thinks about that.
Yeah.
That's fine?
Yeah, no, we have time now.
I mean, we have 10 minutes.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, it won't be long. It won't be long. I'll keep it short. Okay, so why did Britain declare war on Germany? Now, in the late 1980s and early 1990s, Britain was often described as being in splendid isolation from the rest of Europe. So Britain had a huge empire, and ruling this empire was its top priority. The key to Britain's power is India, and with its vast resources and manpower, Britain relied heavily on Indian troops to control the empire. So the highest priority for Britain was protecting the trade routes between Britain and India. So the Indian National Congress supported the British in the First World War because the Congress leaders hoped that as a consequence of this effort, India would get the status of self-governing domination under the British throne. All right, next point. So Britain's large navy protected trade links with India and with the rest of the world. Despite this focus on the empire, Britain was interested in the events in Europe. To start with, other European countries had rival empires. So Belgium and France both had large empires in Africa. There was a strong rivalry between Britain and France over possessions in North Africa, and by the early 1900s, Germany also had colonies in Africa and was beginning to show an interest in North America. Now, the war began because England wanted control of the English, England wanted control of the French wanted control of Anguitane, and the English royal family was also after the French crown. Next one. Okay, hold on. Okay, so another concern was Russia. So for much of the 19th century, Russia wanted to take control of the Desart. Could you pronounce this for me, sir?
Which one is it?
Could you pronounce it?
That's Dardanelles.
Okay, thank you. The Dardanelles, the area where the Black Sea opened out into the Mediterranean Sea. So this would allow Russian warships and trading ships to sail easily around Europe. Now, that has always been a great strategic importance because they link the Black Sea with the Mediterranean Sea, and it provides the only seaward access to the ancient city of Constantinople. I really don't know how to pronounce these things. During the First War, Turkey heavily fortified the Desart-Delines with both minefields and shore battles. You can go ahead, Sakina. Sakina?
Yeah, I'm here. Okay, so until the early 1900s, Britain was more concerned about Russia and France than Germany. Relations between Britain and Germany were very good. This began to change, however, when Kaiser Wilhelm II took control of Germany. He was anxious for Germany to be a great power. He felt that Russia to the east and France to the west were encircling Germany. As a result, he built up his armed forces. France and Russia feared Germany and did the same. During the 1900s, all of the great powers in Europe began to build up their armies and navies. So as we know, Britain likes to be on top. They like to dominate. So when they heard that this country was up and coming and they were building up themselves to become stronger and better and try and like shift the very, as Michaelan's video said, very delicate power balance that was in Europe, it started to like kind of worry them, but they weren't too worried as yet. But especially for Germany now, they want to be great very badly. So they're not going to allow themselves to be pushed over by countries like Russia and France. So if they want to be prepared for any like
attacks that they might try and put against them and their like empires, because Germany was beginning to branch out and starting to colonize other areas. Why did Britain join the Triple Entente? British policy in Europe intended that no country in Europe should become completely dominant. If Russia, France, Germany, and Austria-Hungary worried about each other, then they would be less of a threat to Britain. By about 1907, it was becoming clear to Britain that the greatest potential threat to Britain was going to be Germany. The strong economy, large population, and powerful armed forces of Germany seemed to be capable of dominating Europe. As a result, Britain began to support Russia and France. Britain joined the Triple Entente. Now, with that being said, if everybody else is worried about each other, if everybody on the mainland is worried about each other, taking up more space, colonizing their areas on the land, Britain does not have to worry about them. They can sit by themselves, build up their countries, continue colonizing, become greater and stronger, and they essentially have nothing to worry about. Everybody else on the mainland is simply so concerned with each other. But with Germany wanting to branch out and they're building up their economy, the population, and their armed forces, if they can take over all of Europe, then they become an even bigger threat to Britain, who is already having multiple colonies in the West Indies. They're discovering new places. They're getting their raw materials from Africa. They stand the chance of overthrowing some of those colonies and taking them over for themselves. So if Britain wants to protect herself, she's going to get invested in European politics, even though it doesn't really concern her because she's an island. So she will join the Triple Entente as a safety precaution. Gabrielle?
Okay, next slide. Okay, so despite being part of the Triple Entente, Britain was not committed to going to war in 1914. The Foreign Secretary, Sir Edward Grey, spent much of the summer fiercely trying to reassure Russia and Germany and prevent a war from happening. So after the assassination of the Archduke, Grey and the German Emperor William II independently proposed that Austria-Hungary, without resorting to war, obtain satisfaction from Serbia by occupying the Belgrade, which the Serbian government completely abandoned. So even when German troops invaded France and Belgium as part of the Stefan Plan, Britain did not have to go to war. Next slide, please. Okay, so Germany hoped Britain would stay out of the war altogether. However, when the Germans knew that Britain had promised to defend Belgium under the Treaty of London in 1939, the Germans wanted the British government to ignore the Treaty of London and let German army pass through Belgium. So the British government made much of their duty to protect Belgium. The Belgian ports were close to the British coast, and the German control of Belgium would have been seen as a serious threat to Britain. In the end, Britain refused to ignore the events of August 4, 1940, when Germany attacked France through Belgium. Now, Germany declared war on France. To avoid French fortifications along the French-German border, the troops had to cross Belgium and attack the French army by the north. So of course the Belgians refused to let them through, so the Germans decided to enter by force and invade Belgium. So within hours, Britain had declared war on Germany. So the Kaiser, next slide, the Kaiser said how foolish he thought the British were. He said that Britain had gone to war for the sake of a scrap paper. So within a few more days, Britain, France, and Russia, the Allies, were officially at war with Germany and Austria-Hungary, the Central Powers. What had started as a small local problem in the Balkans was turning into the biggest and most brutal war the world had ever seen. Okay, go ahead, Sakina.
A declaration of war. On August 4th, 1914, Great Britain declared war on Germany. It was a decision that is seen as the start of World War I. Britain, led by Prime Minister Herbert Asquith, had given Germany an ultimatum to get out of Belgium by midnight of August 3rd. In fear of being surrounded by the might of Russia and France, Germany had put into being the Schifflin Plan in response to the events that had occurred in Sarajevo in June of 1914. By doing this, the German military hierarchy had doomed Belgium to an invasion. Belgium's neutrality had been guaranteed by Great Britain as far back as 1839. Asquith had a very simple decision to make, but one that would have a cataclysmic impact on British society. So because Britain had already promised Belgium from 1839 that if anything is supposed to happen, we will come in and step in and defend your neutrality. Belgium did not want to go to war with these people, so they were saying, we're not going to do that. But in order for the Schifflin Plan to take place and go successfully through Germany, they need to invade and go through Belgium. But Britain is saying, you're not going to potentially invade my country and then potentially take up residence and take over one of my favorite ports. So I'm not going to allow that. So I'm going to need you to leave the country by 12 a.m. of August 3rd, or there's going to be war. And of course, Germany did not listen, so there was a declaration of war. Now, the Prime Minister could either turn a blind eye to a war in mainland Europe that might have little impact on Britain if she stood as a neutral. Or the British public could see Asquith as a man who stood up to the perceived bullying of Germany and who stood up for righteousness and decency. A future Prime Minister, Winston Churchill, described the scene that led to the war. I don't think we included that part. I'm pretty sure I deleted that. Deborah?
Okay, so here we have a quote from Lord Rothmere in 1917. So he said, we're telling lies. We know we're telling lies. We don't tell the public the truth, and we're losing more opposites than the Germans, and it is impossible to get through on the Western Front. Now, this was Lord Rothmere was a prominent British journalist, and he said this in a conversation with his colleague J.L. Garvin, a fellow journalist. So in the next slide, we have a map, and this was a map of Europe in 1914. So we have the countries, Austria, Hungary, Switzerland, France, Spain, and we have them color schemed in, you'll see the key there. So you'd know who's the triple entente, the central powers, and who was completely neutral. And in the next slide, you can go to the next slide. This was a map of Europe after the war in 1990. So you can see the different countries here. I probably didn't make it big enough. I apologize for that. I'll blow it up more when we post the presentation. Okay, next slide.
And this is the timeline up until Britain decided to join the war. So it was June 28, 1914, Francis Ferdinand is assassinated at Sarajevo. Then July 5th, 1914, Kaiser Wilhelm II promised German support for Austria against Serbia. Then July 28th, 1914, Austria declared war on Serbia. Then August 1st, 1914, and Germany declares war on Russia. And then August 3rd, 1914, Germany declared war on France and invaded Belgium. Germany had to implement the Schifflin Plan. And then in response to Germany invading Belgium, on August 4th, 1914, Britain declares war on Germany. And that is the end of our presentation.
All right, ladies, thank you very much. Thank you very much for the presentation. Very good presentation, ladies, and I hope that we all learned something from the different presentations. When we meet on Monday, I will give a more comments on them. All right. Very good class, ladies.
Okay, sir. Bye, sir.